All right, everybody. This is Power Move Parker here on another episode of Parker and Dad, episode 14, and the second episode on YouTube. And I'm happy to say the YouTube was a success. A lot of people were excited that it was on YouTube. You can check it out, Old Main Entertainment on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. That way, every time we do a podcast, your phone will go off and you'll be the first ones to know. We're doing it on a Monday today because we got a lot of things going on this week. And I just didn't want to worry about it tomorrow. But today we have a lot on the docket. Before we do, I want to welcome Dad to the show. Dad, how you doing?
Hey, glad to be here.
Well, Dad, we talked about a lot last week, and we got into the main theme of last week was players living in a bubble of fear, like not players, but people, bubble of fear, how the government can use fear to take away your rights. A lot of the times that's what it is. It's people wanting safety, people wanting protection. And me and you have watched Walking Dead. There's a lot of crazy things people will do and rights they will give up in order to feel safe. I mean, we saw that with going off the Walking Dead kind of situation. We saw that with Rick's group, and the Hilltop with Gregory and people like that who Negan and the Saviors would come in. They'd offer them protection, but all they had to do was give up half of everything they owned. And it was crazy how many people were willing to side with that person in order to be protected. And that's an extreme example, but it seems like people are willing to, if they know there's a sense of protection or a sense of safety. I say that in quotations because you're never really safe. You're never really protected. We could go out and I could get hit by a car driving my truck down the road. I mean, it's not like this whole thing about safety is kind of a really weird thing, but people are willing to give up a lot for safety, a lot of freedoms, a lot of personal choices, a lot of property and things like that. It's crazy how quick people are willing to give up stuff in the name of protection, don't you think?
Yeah, it's historical. I mean, you can study back down and don't think that the different political groups and organizations don't know this. I mean, it's been a tactic for many years to create a problem. Uh, it happens now on the internet. Where someone sends you an email and, oh no, you've been hacked, or uh, anything to create some fear, some reason. A scam used to be that they would come knock on a senior's house and say, "Look, I noticed that you've got a problem with your roof and or your gutters or whatever it might be, and we can fix this." And then they take money away from them, and there's no repair to be made, but they've scared them that something terrible was going to happen. So it's as old as time, but to use an opportunity to scare someone, and this has been a great opportunity. You can't see it, you can't test for you. You just don't know. I mean, it's out there. We don't know anything about it, and so they created the fear, and then hyped onto that fear, and hyped onto that fear, and everyone from every angle has taken their pound of flesh and created an opportunity for themselves.
It's funny because when you're talking about a virus, you're legitimately going off of things you do not know. You're going off of what experts or so-called experts are saying. There's no actual proof other than reports you read from so-called experts who have been debunked numerous times on both sides. I mean, they have stats for this, they have stats for that. They don't completely tell you the full story. They leave out some things, yada, 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 whatever it may be. So you're completely going off blind faith and believing in these government officials, government experts, or doctors or people. And I was watching something the other day, and this French philosopher who I don't know if he was being quoted by a guy on Fox News or whatever, but he was saying doctors are people too, by the way. Doctors have jobs. Once they take off their coats, they're just like you and me. They make mistakes. Their studies aren't accurate. These are all proposed ideas. So even if say you're leaning on a doctor or somebody else one way or the other, I'm not picking a side here. I'm just saying you got to realize doctors, they put on their pants 1 foot at a time, just like the rest of us. We put these people on pedestals because we think they actually know what they're talking about. Just because Dr. Fauci's been in charge 40-something years or whatever doesn't mean he has other motives, doesn't mean he can't have greed, doesn't mean he's partnered with some people that are suspect, doesn't mean he doesn't have a hidden agenda. I mean, we put a lot of these blind faith in these scientists and politicians. It's funny to me that American people who are so and nowadays they don't want to talk about anything to do with faith. They don't want to talk about religion. They don't want to talk about things like that with people of faith. They always downplay their faith. But when it comes to faith in politicians and faith to Democrat politicians, they jump through walls. I mean, they absolutely worship Obama. They worship Joe Biden, I would say, to a lesser extent. They worship anything that has to do with their agenda, and they legit go on blind faith. If CNN or anything, or even Fox News on our side, if somebody says something, they don't question it. They don't test it out for themselves. They just automatically assume it's accurate. And I'm just here to say they're people too. They're not God. They're not the know-all, end-all, be-all. There have been worse viruses in the past. There have been plagues. There have been wars. There have been things in the past. And people back then haven't been so quick to give up their freedom and stuff like that. It's almost like we're wanting to give things up so quick. We're signing off. And I'm just here to say the doctors are people too. They're not always right. They're guessing. That's what science is. It's a lot of guesswork. It's a lot of, we think this is right, but another thing could come along. There's no 100% proof that coronavirus is as bad as it says it is, or if those people actually died from coronavirus. We don't know if there was other complications. We don't know if they were old or anything like that. I mean, we do have the age numbers. Most of them are old. Most of them do have pre-existing conditions. We actually do have numbers that state that, but even so, it's a lot of guesswork, and people are just willing to throw all their freedoms away based on guesswork. That makes me kind of uncomfortable to be a human being right now.
I think that's the scary part about all of it, Parker, is that there is so much that's not known about this. And so we enter into it, and you look to the medical professionals and the experts, so-called experts, and we want them to tell us what we need to do. And as you said, there were mistakes made early on, and there's still mistakes being made. I think with everything, we ought to be a little more cautious how we enter into it. Ronald Reagan used to have the saying, trust but verify. It's just harder when it comes to things that we don't understand. I mean, you understand maybe a business dealing or someone that's doing something that you have some understanding of, but we don't understand. The layman doesn't know the science behind all of this. But I think, unfortunately, there were people sitting around and saw this as an opportunity to say, we can actually take a huge grab of the people's freedoms, and they have, and we were willing to turn it over to be safe, and it's a lesson learned, and here we are. Again, as I said last week, it's going to be something to see how we gain back the things that we gave up.
Is it safe to say that before coronavirus, Trump was going to walk away with the presidency by far, big win? There wasn't really going to be a challenge. I'm not saying he's going to lose this year, but I'm saying up until coronavirus hit, it was hard to attack Trump because everything he's done has been beneficial. The economy, border security, conservative Supreme Court justices, all the stuff he said he wanted to do, lowering taxes, cutting regulations, all those things. Up until coronavirus, it looked like Trump was going to walk away with the election, don't you think?
Well, obviously, certainly it was going to be much easier. I think you would say that he was in the
driver's seat,
and that it was his election to lose. Now there's some question. I don't know the polling. You hear a Trump campaign come out and say we look good, we're where we want to be, we're meeting our goals. For someone looking at it, Trump's in trouble, and he's got to do some work to win this.
But my point is, on that note, is that it looked good for Trump until coronavirus hit. And then all of a sudden, the virus got magnified. Because I go off of history. I don't claim to be an expert. But wouldn't you agree that every 4 years when there's a presidential election, things are magnified, things are over exaggerated a little bit. It's hard to
Absolutely. Yeah.
trust sources.
It's hard to
Yeah,
trust, and,
yeah,
and 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 this was what would call a perfect storm. No one could foresee
yeah.
uh, this coming on. We knew there might be something with China. There might be some international problem that come up. We were a little worried about the debt. We were a
Yeah,
little
we didn't
worried
know it would
about
be a virus.
the
Yeah,
economy, and if there was going to be a bubble, a recession, a downturn in the economy. People were forecasting that there might be a slowdown. So those things were out there, but no, everything was looking good. But for the coronavirus and the snowball that it's become, affecting the economy and everything across the board. Uh, yes, it is the absolute worst thing, and no one could have predicted what was going to happen.
well, I want to switch gears to highlight the actual effects of the coronavirus, which is it does affect certain people, especially people who are a little bit older and things like that and have certain health issues. Like Herman Cain, for example, he was 74, and he was a guy that actually he was actively on his Twitter and Facebook saying that we should open things back up. We should get the government, the economy going again. He was a business guy. He wanted to keep things moving. He was also a presidential candidate, and I think it was 2012. And his main thing was the 999 plan, where he had 9% tax on this, 9% tax on this, and 9% tax. He wanted 9% on each of the big taxing categories, and he just wanted 9% all the way down. So it was his famous 999 plan, and I kind of liked it because 9% would be pretty low. I think a lot of people who working class would have liked that, but he that was his famous thing. He passed away last week, and it was of coronavirus. So a lot of people were poking fun at that because he was the guy that was saying, "Oh, he was a big Trump supporter," and he was the guy that was saying, "Oh, we shouldn't really, worry about the virus, yada yada." I think till his last day, though, I think he still supported Trump up until the last day, and I still think even though he passed away, he would still want people not to live in fear, to live their lives, to go and live life to the fullest. I think that's what Herman Cain would want to be remembered by, not some guy who, died from a virus and was scared of the virus, wanting people to stay inside and not do anything. I think you can look back on his tweets and his posts and what his team posted, and to the very end, they were staunch Trump supporters, and they believed that opening back the economy and living life was good. So I think that's what we should remember Herman Cain by. The fact that, yes, he passed away. It was sad, but he lived life his way to the very end. There's something you could admire about a guy like that.
I don't think that he was naive. I think that he knew that he just recovered from a bout with cancer. I think he knew he had risk factors, but knowing that, he still went out, lived life. He went to a Trump rally in June.
Yeah.
He was out and about. He was doing his business, and he was encouraging other people. He knew that he had higher risk, and he was out there, and he got it. And unfortunately, I know it's sad for his family and for all those around him. Uh, he was a good guy. He was dedicated to what he believed in. But I don't think he would have come back and done it any differently, knowing what happened.
So this brings me to kind of the athletics section because there's going to be a lot of sports stuff because sports are back, and it ties into politics, which really, if I wouldn't really want to talk sports stuff with you, I'd want to talk it with Reed because Reed's my sports guy. But the fact is, I'm forced to talk politics with you when it comes to sports because the thing we love, the thing we grew up watching, Houston sports, Rockets, Astros, Texans, they're all political now, Dad. Every single thing I love about this country, which is sports. Sports and, obviously food, God, things like that. But sports has always been very high on the list for me. Sports is now a place where there used to be unity and people of all backgrounds coming together to cheer on a team. I can't tell you how many different friends I've made cheering on Houston sports or just sports in general, cheering on a certain team. They may not have the same background I have. They may not have the same skin color, race, whatever, but we all like that team. Therefore, we cheer for the same team. We became friends and things like that. So it's just sad to me that politics have made their way into sports, and we finally get sports back. We get a chance to take our mind off of what's happening. And the very first game we do with the Black Lives Matter, the kneeling, they're just kneeling during the anthem, the taking shots at President Trump on Twitter, all that stuff has become politicized and it's divisive. And everything I loved about this country is now starting to kind of disappoint me a little bit. So I have to talk about it, you know?
Well, you know where I stand on that. I've given up Hollywood a while back, and now I'm giving up professional
But
sports,
it's
or
still sad.
at
Yeah.
least the NBA and the NFL, because
Baseball seems to have done it a little bit different. The players are kneeling. Well, some teams are. At least our favorite team, the Houston Astros. What they're doing is they're kneeling before the anthem, and then when the anthem comes on, they're standing up because the anthem means. I mean, how ironic would it be if America's pastime you're kneeling during the national anthem? How stupid would that be? I mean,
yeah, I'm never going to support that. I mean, what it needs to be, and I know there's out there people are going to argue, and now the push to change the national anthem. I'm sorry, but the flag and the national anthem still means something to me, and maybe it's my generation, but it's my father's generation and what America stands for, and I still think that it's important to have American pride. And I don't think there's anything to apologize for being proud to be an American and proud of what America stands for. There are a lot of people that have wanted to come and talk about, and if you ever have the opportunity to visit with a new U.S. citizen or someone that has brought their family to America, they'll tell you what America means to them, and they're going to stand for the pledge, and they're going to stand for the flag because they know what it means to them and what the opportunity was for them to get their family here. And so, no, I'm not going to. And yes, it has destroyed my experience in watching professional sports because, again, I watch professional sports for a release, for a getaway, for an opportunity to stop thinking about life and think about just how the game is played and what's going on. I don't need to see someone on the basketball court wearing a jersey or making some kind of an expression, or someone on the football field doing that. That's not what I'm watching for. I'm not watching for their political bias or their political stance or how they feel about a certain thing. I'm not looking for them to tell me what I should think about an issue. That's not the person I'm going to. I've always thought that you should find a person that you respect and go to them. If it's about financial needs, you need to find somebody that's in the finance business, someone successful. If it's about life, maybe you should find someone that's been successful in life in a certain area. But I'm not going to a major league ball player, some 20-something-year-old kid that doesn't have a clue about life is going to tell me how to live my life.
Well, and another thing to piggyback onto that was just funny because I was watching ESPN, and the first commercial that came on was a mask commercial talking about people wearing masks, and it was saying, "This is not a mask. This is not a mask." It was so woke. It was so hippy dippy. This is not a mask. This is not a mask. This is a sign of unity. This is a sign of love. You know, you love each other if you wear a mask. All this mumbo jumbo, whatever. It was so hippy dippy. It was so, as I say, fruit of the looms. It was people trying way too hard to be woke, and it's just frustrating. It's like when you go to, it's the same thing, like you said, when you go to movies and you see stuff like that. But for so long, I mean, it's just hard for me to take advice from someone who's made a lot more money than me doing something that's, it's playing a game or coaching a game. That's what it is. It's a game. It's a game kids play. It's a game that kids can get outside and they can play for fun. That's what they're getting paid to do, millions and millions of dollars to do so. And some of them even billions because they're getting endorsements and things like that. So they are literally benefiting off of this country playing a game, and they're going to complain to me about how oppressive this nation is. How do they not see the irony in that? To me, I don't understand how they don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, yes, they have talent. They won the DNA lottery.
Where else can you go and make
They
that kind of money playing a
they
game?
inherited good
Yeah.
genes and obviously a work ethic and some
Yeah.
talent
Woohoo.
that we don't have. But that does not give them the ability to be an authority on life or a political issue or a social issue. I think they have the right. First Amendment says they can speak their piece. I'm just saying I have a right. If I'm going to spend my dollar, if I'm going to spend my money, I'm not going to go into a place of business that's advertising something that I oppose or I'm uncomfortable with. Or, I mean, that's why they say you have a clicker. If you're watching something on TV and they start showing or a show starts going in a direction that you say, okay, I don't agree with this, I don't have to sit and watch it. I don't have to go to a play or I don't have to go see a movie if I don't agree with it. But I certainly also don't have to spend my sports dollars, my entertainment dollars to go listen to somebody make a political issue. Now, if they go out there and play their sport, if they use their talent, if they do what they do, that's great. And then if they want to have a press conference afterwards, if they want to go someplace on the street corner and talk about, or if they want to donate their money they've made to a cause,
Some of them are.
get
Some of them are
after it.
doing that.
Get after it. But I don't have to spend my money to watch them talk about things that I disagree with.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that that's like me complaining that's like me, a fat white guy, saying we need more food in this country. Man,
And
we
I'll
should
tell
have.
you, let me clarify something. I don't
Yeah.
disagree with Black Lives Matter. What I do is that I don't appreciate them having to stick it down my throat and tell me that if I don't stand up or do something a certain way, that I'm inferior or that I am something that I am not. That's what I disagree with.
Yeah.
I don't want to be told what I am because I don't do what they tell me to do.
It's not even that you don't think Black lives don't matter. It's the fact that, like you said, you have to jump through certain hoops. So it's like you have to prove something to somebody in order for people to think you're woke or you're not a racist or you're not a bad person. You got to jump through all these hoops. You got to, when we tell you to bark, you got to bark. When we say jump, you got to say how high. You got to do all these little things they want you to do in order to prove you're on their side or on their team. And Black Lives Matter is more than just a saying. If it was just a saying, woohoo. There's a negative connotation to the organization itself, Black Lives Matter organization. It's a negative connotation. They're the ones who are partnering with all this. They're the ones who are starting all this. Like I said, they're a Marxist group. They want to get rid of the nuclear family. There's a lot of things that I'm just politically not for. A lot of it is left wing. Ben Shapiro said it himself. Why don't you just go out and write Biden 2020 on the court? That's what they should do, right? Because they're trying to vote out Trump. They don't care about Black lives. They want to vote Trump out of office. That's what this is. It's not for Black lives. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know how you see it, but
I mean, everything has an agenda, and clearly, yeah.
Because their whole thing is go vote. Their whole thing at the end of everything is go vote, go vote. Now, who do you think they're telling you to vote for? It's not Trump.
No, it's
Yeah.
anybody but Trump,
Yeah.
and they got Biden. They're not excited about it, but they've got Biden, and Biden wants to be president so bad that he's willing to tell them and do anything that they want to do, and so he'll be their puppet. He doesn't know it. I feel bad for Biden because he doesn't know it. He doesn't know that he's already sold himself out to them, but that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And they'll be calling the shots.
Well, Jesse, yeah. Jesse Waters even said, I mean, he said that that Trump doesn't even have to work to say Biden's far left, because in a speech the other day, Biden literally said he's part of the radical left. He said those words exactly. He's like, I am far left. I am pretty far left on a lot of issues. Is he was telling it to somebody who had a camera on him, who he was talking to, admitting that he's not center of the line. He's far left. That's what he was telling people. And he hasn't even gotten to the debates. I mean, he is admitting it right here, right now. It's in the general election. He is telling people that he is far left. That's who he's trying to get. He's trying to get the Bernie bros on his side because he knows he can't win without the Bernie bros, and he can't win without some probably some help from China. I think he's really leaning on China to help out too. But the Bernie bros are a big market of his that he wants to pull in and get. And so he knows he has to get that Bernie, my age group. He's got to get those far left people out there that are my age that are going to vote for him, or else he's not going to win. But it was just funny. He straight up admitted it. And Ben Shapiro went on the other day and said, well, the NBA should just write Biden 2020 on the court and just get it over with, because that's what this is. It's a campaign for Biden. That's all this really is. And that's why it's upsetting. But Charles Barkley even said it on the air on TNT the very first night basketball was coming back. Your boy, my boy, we both love Charles Barkley. We watch a lot of him. He said, you're not a bad person if you don't stand for the flag. He said the flag means something different to everybody. He's like, please don't make it about this. Everybody has a right to do what they want. And Shaq kind of piggybacked on it too. He was like, yeah, I'm not going to tell people what to do with their brand, what to do with their name. If they want to stand, let them stand. It's their money. It's their right. They both Shaq and Chuck had pretty conservative views on the whole thing, while Kenny and Ernie were trying to play it safe and kind of tote the company line. You could tell Ernie didn't want to say anything offensive, him being the only white guy on the set. And Kenny was trying to just do what he thought was right. But Charles and Shaq, the guys with money, probably the two richer guys on there, they were kind of saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you that this country's bad. I'm not going to tell you not to stand for the flag. If you want to stand for the flag, you're not a bad person. Charles Barkley is also the same guy that said Democrats have been voting Democrat for the last 50 years, and they're still poor. It hasn't helped. It hasn't worked. So maybe you may want to think outside the box a little bit. And this is Charles Barkley, who's from a Southern boy from Alabama. He played for Auburn University. I mean, he's as Southern and oppressed as you can get. I mean, you got to think he's dealt with racism. You got to think Charles Barkley has had negative things in his life. But instead of telling people how bad this country is, Charles Barkley has overcome it. And look at him now. Now he's the number one basketball guy on TNT. He gets paid the most money. He has the most fun on there. I mean, he's a well-respected person. Everybody wants to get Charles Barkley on their show, and he has the leverage. If he wants to say something, TNT knows to get out of their way because he has such a following, and the show needs him. So I'm happy that Charles Barkley stood up for his beliefs and defended people who were standing up for the flag. I mean, I was really surprised. I didn't think he was going to do that, but he literally stopped the show and went on a little 2-minute rant about how, listen, people are going to stand for the flag. It's their right to do that. We shouldn't call them, whatever if they don't stand for the flag. So I thought it was pretty cool.
No, and I think it's great. And someone like Charles Barkley has the standing to be able to do that. And I'm glad that he can, because as we talked about it, I mean, the reason Ernie didn't is because he doesn't have that position. They would shut down his career.
Yes.
And he's got to be careful what he says or what stance he takes. But for a successful black man, and I think it's great that he's speaking up. And I think more and more in the black community are realizing that. But again, there's still a danger. You've seen some of the things that Dr. Ben Carson has had, a person who grew up poor, who went to college and became a brain surgeon, who has been very successful. But when he ran for the Republican nomination for president, he was demonized by those on the far left. And you still have Herman Cain, we just spoke about, who stood up for, and he took heat as well. And I'm sure Charles Barkley has and will take some heat. Barkley's in a little different stance because he came up through the basketball ranks, and he can carry that out a little better. I think that what you're seeing in society is the fact that those that are thoughtful, those that are honest with themselves, have seen that what they've done for the last 75 years in supporting blindly the Democrats, the left side of the political spectrum, hasn't benefited them much. And when they see some of the things that this president was able to do before the coronavirus to help in the lower income communities and the black communities, the minority communities, they can look and say, look, there are some positive things that were going forward and that could happen. And I think you have seen people come out and say, look, this far left agenda is taking for granted our support. And I wish that everyone could back off of all the rhetoric and look at things from a reasonable stance. But unfortunately, that's not how it all works. But no, kudos to a person, a black man, a man of color that will stand up and speak his mind and say, I don't have to agree or disagree, but I think Barkley does it in a way that he has credibility.
Well, I'm going to let you speak more on that with the Jonathan Isaac situation. A player who's actually in the trenches playing said that he's a Christian and that his whole thing was in the gospel is you don't kneel for anything except for God. So he was taking a more Christian stance, which I think me and you can appreciate, about taking a knee for the Black Lives Matter movement. For, like, say there was a White Lives Matter movement, say it was switched, just a White Lives Matter movement, a Brown Lives, whatever. It still would not be right to take a knee, according to this guy, because it goes against his faith. It goes against him being a Christian, and he doesn't knee for anything but God. So it makes sense for him to do it that way. He stood up and had a press conference about it, and his name was Jonathan Isaac, and he actually hurt his ACL. I think he's done. Plays for the Orlando Magic. I think he may be done for the season, but the Orlando Magic weren't doing anything anyway. I think he made a bigger impact doing what he did, but he said Black Lives Matter. The movement doesn't go hand in hand with actually helping Black lives. And he said taking a knee for the anthem doesn't actually help Black lives at all. It's symbolic as all it is. And he said he'd rather represent unity and his faith by standing than taking a knee. And he was a very powerful statement from that young man. I thought I showed you the video, I think I did when you were here. But what'd you think about his reaction to it and his bravery? Really, I mean, let's face it. Let's face it for a second. He's brave for standing up for the flag. I never thought I'd have to say that, but he is a brave person for standing up. You know, a lot of his teammates were kneeling, and they probably wanted him to kneel, and they probably questioned him and grilled him. I know the reporter, the first question she asked was, "Oh, so you don't care about Black lives?" Well, that was a snarky question. And then he turned it back around on her. He said, well, I'm a man of faith, and I don't think kneeling, he made it about his faith personal to him. So I think it's pretty cool that you have guys like that are now, like you said, more and more starting to stand up. I'm not saying the tide is turning, because I still think I see the writing on the wall. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But it's good to see there is a little bit of resistance as far as athletes go that are like kind of saying, same thing with the NHL. The NHL, they don't want to take a knee either. They're proud to stand for their country. So some sports are kind of starting to take a stand. Some businesses are. But it's cool to see that little bit of resistance, don't you think?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think you're correct. He was very, very brave in doing so. Whether or not it's going to make a difference, I don't know, because I think you see those that have stood up, those that are standing for something like that. Not all of them can be the Charles Barkleys and absorb what that comes in. This kid's career with the injury, it may be over. He may be blackballed in the NBA. After this, they may have enough to say there's a question mark. We'll have to, time will tell. The same with businesses that do. They may get a little bump, but over time, I'm not sure that there's enough out there that are supporting that. I think that.
Well, I hope it's not that bad.
I think he was correct for what he said. I mean, absolutely, he needs to be commended for that, and he was very brave for that. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Was right after. Well, before the election, Obama was still in office. An Iranian speedboat or someone over there captured one of our vessels. And in the video, what they did was made all of the sailors on the Navy vessel kneel, and they were on their knees. And that's the photo that they sent out of all of them on their knees. It means it stands for something. That's why, as a patriot, as an American, we don't kneel before our flag. We don't kneel for anyone. We're Americans, just like any other country wouldn't kneel before theirs. We're proud. We are Americans. We stand for the flag. It's a symbol of our strength. You're not going to battle and kneel before your opponent. You don't kneel before a sporting event before your opponent. and you certainly don't kneel before any other God than your God. I mean, those things are throughout all of those. They have meaning to what that is. And so I think that's why folks that appreciate, that have served in the military, that have an understanding of what being a patriot is, they don't want to kneel for the anthem. They don't want to kneel for the flag. It means something. Certainly, it doesn't mean that they don't care about Black lives or whatever the cause or police brutality. That has nothing to do with it. They're mixing two things together. But anyway, yes, back to the player, to Isaacs. I think he's very brave, and I respect him speaking out for what he believed in, and kudos to him.
Greg Popovich also stood for the national anthem. The guy who hates Trump, hated Trump saying what he says all the time. Turns out Popovich, who I think has military family, is probably why. He's a big military guy over there in San Antonio. So it makes sense for him to stand, now the more I think about it.
And I appreciate that. I think
but it's still kind of ironic.
It is ironic because
the other day, I mean, let's fast forward 2 or 3 weeks ago. If Trump or a Republican were to stand for the national anthem, I guarantee Popovich would call them racist or something along those lines.
He already has, and that's why I think it's a bit hypocritical that he refused to answer the question. That's Greg Popovich, though. He's never going to speak up. He's quick to criticize, but when he's questioned, he has no comment. So
he gets real angry.
I trust that he has a reason, and I respect him for that. I do think he's a bit of a hypocrite because he calls out others, but when he was asked about it, he was snarky about it and said it was personal.
Yeah, well, he didn't want to defend his takes. He didn't want to. Yeah, it's like you can't stir up the left-wing media and give them sound bites, and then all of a sudden you pull away when it's your turn to go against them. It's kind of a chicken crap move, but, we'll leave it there. It's funny because two people are actually kind of going along with the same theme of Popovich. They're kind of realizing I don't know if they're realizing the error of their ways or they're coming around making more sense of things. But the first one is Steve Kerr, head coach of Golden State Warriors, who the Warriors didn't even make the bubble because they're so bad this year. They didn't even get invited to play in Orlando. There was like 8 teams at the very bottom that didn't even get an invite, and the Warriors are like dead last. So they didn't even make the bubble. They're not playing. Their season is over. So a lot of reflection time for Steve Kerr and company, and he was quick. Him and LeBron James, Popovich, all those guys were very quick to talk bad about Daryl Morey, the Rockets GM, who went on and said free Hong Kong, talked about the injustices China is doing against Hong Kong, all that stuff. Very bad. The bad part about this is, and people say, why are we worried about China? Why don't you fix your racist American country? Well, first off, we told you America's not that bad. Second off, China is involved with America because China influences the NBA, whether we like it or not. China influences Disney, NBA. A lot of places are getting that China money, Netflix, things like that. There's a lot of businesses that we associate with in our American day-to-day lives. I mean, go look around you. Try to find something that doesn't say made in China. It might take you a while. It's going to take you a while to find something. China is so uprooted and enrooted into the American fabric that we can't even separate ourselves from them. So to say we shouldn't worry about what's going over in China is stupid because China is a part of us now, whether we like it or not. They're deeply entrenched in what we are. In the NBA makes so much money off of China. Nike, where do you think those little kids are making their tennis shoes? They're making it over in China in sweatshops. Where do you think you're getting your smartphones from? Oh, yeah, Chinese sweatshops. I'm just saying, this is how it works. You can't ignore China. You can't ignore the elephant in the room. Steve Kerr's finally come back around and said, well, maybe I was a little too harsh on Daryl Morey. Maybe I should apologize to him or whatever. He kind of backtracked on his comments. It's too little too late for Steve Kerr. I think this is not going to get any media attention other than us and maybe Fox News if they decide to pick it up. But it's kind of funny to see Steve Kerr backtrack and realize, oh, crap, maybe I shouldn't have attacked, because there are some conservative like Barstool Sports, Outkick. There are some conservative like bloggers out there that are saying, hey, NBA, where's your hypocrisy there? Because you're talking about Black Lives Matter, but you don't care what's going on in China. There's some really, really bad stuff going on in China. Our problems compared to China are not that bad.
Yeah, you're totally right about that, and so we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But I predict that you're not going to hear it if it doesn't fit their narrative. You're not going to hear any more about it.
Yeah, the whole China thing has just kind of come out of nowhere, and people were surprised that I guess conservatives picked up on it. But it's just funny to me that yeah, I mean, we're smart. We know the hypocrisy. We picked up on it, and there's a lot of like conservative bloggers out there on Twitter that were like, "Hey, wait a minute, what about China? The very beginning of the season, you let China off the hook, and you're still taking so much money from China. The NBA gets so much endorsements from China, money, viewership. I mean, they're not going to say anything bad about China. The other day, they had these things where these fans could make social justice messages. You could do Black Lives Matter. You could do, go vote, equality, peace. You could do all these kind of hippy-dippy things. You could type it in on the computer, what you wanted. Well, someone videotaped themselves typing in free Hong Kong. And the NBA said, no, that's not an approved message. We can't put that on our jersey. So fans wanted that on their jersey. They went on the website, typed it in, free Hong Kong, and the NBA website said, no, we can't use that.
Yeah, again, it's hypocritical. It's the same thing that we're happening with all of the social media and those. We talked about it last week. If it fits the narrative, it's okay to say. It doesn't matter if it's hurtful, if it's racist, if it's whatever label you might want to put on it. If it fits the cause, the narrative. If it doesn't, then you're going to get labeled as racist, as xenophobic, as whatever you want to call it. Again, those that have the power of the newspapers, the Hollywood, the control. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, NFL a few years back had a guy that was supporting a police officer killed in the line of duty or something, and they fined him.
It was Dallas, yeah.
Said he couldn't wear that. Now it's okay that we have all this stuff about Black Lives. Well, I mean, I thought the rule book said you can't have social causes, whatever, but yet now we're going to do all these things. It's running rampant through the league. It's so laughable.
I thought about that too. I was like, so freedom of expression, right? So I can wear a Trump 2020 sticker, or can I wear Trump 2020 on my
freedom of expression if you agree with me?
Okay, so that's what it is. So it isn't real freedom then. It's whatever. But
it's freedom to support whatever the little group deems as socially woke.
What makes it scary is who's that little group? Who's the group doing this? Because it's scary who's in charge. I mean, there's a group of people figuring this stuff out. That
it's that loud minority that is controlling the left, the Democrats.
I think they have some power now.
They've got the loud minority, and because they control Twitter, for some reason, someone in power in the Democratic Party believes that if it's on Twitter, it must be all of America. When in actuality, it's a small group of people, but they're so scared of Twitter that we poll off of what they say on Twitter. So there's a small group of people that are controlling the Twitter bots, and it's probably Chinese and Russia people that are putting it out there because they have more bots than anybody else. But yet that's what's controlling those in power because they're scared to death.
So Ellen's the same way. I mean, Ellen has just got the whole thing turned. Ellen, who I considered part of the Hollywood elite. Everybody knows Ellen DeGeneres. She has her own show, or she did have her own show. Now it looks like she doesn't. She hasn't been out in public in days ever since these, these homophobic, or not homophobic. She was saying something that was sexist or sexual allegations or whatever were all going on her show. A lot of sexual harassment stuff. A lot of sexual allegations going on our show, and just a lot of stuff like that going on with the Ellen show. The last person you would expect to get attacked like this. I mean, she's a lesbian talk show host, very friendly, doesn't really stir the pot at all. I mean, she's not a controversial person. She's not really like a person that's going to make fun of a lot of things. She just has people on her show. She's as liberal as they come. She's part of the Hollywood elite. She hangs out with all those people. She's, you know, she has the whole LA lifestyle going down. And now she is getting attacked by the inner circle for a couple of you know, I don't know if it's true or not, some allegations going on about sexual assault. I think there was some sexual harassment, sexual assault, and stuff like that. And I think there may have been even some racial stuff too that she said as well. I haven't dug into that very much. I know more and more is coming out, but what do you think about Ellen, who was part of the group, and now all of a sudden she must have pissed someone off because now all this bad stuff is all of a sudden coming out about her. I have a theory. I think she pissed somebody off in the upper echelon of the group, the inner circle, and now she's being kicked out, and she may never have a show again. She may just, I mean, she's probably not going to have a show. She's probably not going to be in any movies. I mean, she was on Finding Nemo. She played the fish Dory. She's been on a lot of stuff.
I don't want to speculate. What I think is interesting and what all of those in the group that go out and attack other people, because Ellen certainly was there whenever the Me Too or whatever.
Yeah, she was a big supporter. Yeah.
She was one of the vocal people out doing the attacking. I think all of the other people in the group need to look around and say, wow, it didn't take long for everybody to turn on Ellen.
Yeah.
What if it was me? How quickly are they going to throw me?
Just as quick.
Because a little bit of blood in the water, everybody ran. There's no one standing up for Ellen. A little curious there on how quickly everybody ran away.
Yeah, you find out who your friends are when things get ugly. So I guess that's pretty much it. The last thing I want to say is Joe Biden, as we kind of figured out, they had some people on there saying that he should not debate President Trump. There's just no reason it should happen. It was from Joe Lockhart, who was the former White House press secretary. He penned an op-ed last week urging Joe Biden. You're going to get a hoot out of this, by the way. This is the liberal mindset. This is the whole, if we can't win, we take our ball and go home, which is what I've talked about with my Uncle Greg before, but it's just hilarious how he says this. Okay, so this is the former White House press secretary. I think he was under the Clinton administration. Yeah, so Joe Lockhart, the former White House press secretary, penned an op-ed last week urging Joe Biden to skip debating President Trump prior to the November election. Quote, whatever you do, don't debate Trump, he wrote on CNN. Trump has made more than 20,000, I counted them all, 20,000 misleading or false statements, according to the Washington Post. It's a fool's errand to enter the ring with someone who can't follow the rules of truth. Biden will undoubtedly take heat from Republicans and the media for skipping the debates, but it's worth the risk, as trying to debate someone incapable of telling the truth is an impossible contest to win. So you can't beat Trump because he cheats, so we're not going to play the game, basically is what he's saying.
Yeah, it's laughable, but conventional wisdom is usually if you're ahead, you don't want to debate. It's proven. You have nothing to win and everything to lose. But I will say that every presidential election for the last 50 years, we've had a debate.
I feel like you owe it. I feel like you owe it to the American people to debate.
And I think that the American people expect it. And if you don't, maybe somebody else could get away with it. But I think there's enough questions about Biden's ability to perform the duties of president that he's got to go out and show that he can stand up to that. Or at least he needs to accept a real reporter, Chris Wallace or Brett Baer or someone, and I'm trying to think someone from the mainstream, but someone that will truly pin him down and follow up with questions to give him a real interview and something that is sustained for a period of time, not a 10-minute fluff piece.
Yeah, 10-minute. Where did you go to eat last night or something like that?
Here are the questions we're going to ask. Let your team write your answers for you, and we'll put them on the teleprompter so that you can respond. That's how he's done the interviews thus far. So that's not going to work. If he does something like that, if I was in his campaign and you went out and you did a hardball interview or two under the grounds where you were going to answer the tough questions, that wasn't controlled, then maybe they could get away with saying we'd rather not go out and debate. But I don't think they're going to do that. And yet to be seen if they're really going to debate. I'm not sure they will.
I don't think they will. I think if they do, Trump's going to bring one of those cognitive tests out there and do it on live TV. I think he's going to actually make Joe Biden answer the questions. Those little cognitive IQ tests they do. I think Trump's going to actually do it on live TV and see if Biden can. Because we've seen Trump do that when he was debating Hillary Clinton. He had all of Bill Clinton's ex-lovers on the front row. You remember that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump's a showman, so
yeah.
he's going to do it. Not sure I'd recommend it, but
it's entertaining. But
Trump's
anyway,
do what he does. Reality TV star.
Yeah, he knows how to do it. So anyway, I'll talk to you later, and thanks for chatting with us. I mean, it's been a lot of stuff we had to tackle, but I'll see you later.
Have a good one. Bye, everybody.